That's why I have a great marriage. You know, can we talk? You sure? I used to be able to detach these things. Not anymore. You know why I have a great marriage? Great marriage. You know why? I don't expect anything. If I get a bowl of soup, I'm happy. If Rivka gets a hug and a petal of roses, she's happy. I got no expectations. It's gravy. My expectations, my love has to come from Yahweh. My attaboys, attaboy Moshe, attaboy, good job, good work. What's so funny? I'm serious. That's got to come from Yahweh. I wasn't trying to be funny, but I'm glad you're laughing. That's got to come from Yahweh, not from Rivka, because Rivka could be saying, attaboy Moshe, and next day when I disappoint her, and when she's disappointed, get out of the house. That turn into a Nicole Brown Simpson. OJ, take your bags and leave. So they wax like the wind. They change like the wind. No. My love has to come from Yahweh. If the love of Yahweh is in me and I guard it when my wife offends me, I have to ignore it or the marriage is over. So the problem is not that it keeps offending you. The problem is you are not mature enough to ignore it. Or she, the other way around. There must be controversies and heresies, so that those who are approved in the Kehillah may be manifest. Those who are not shaken are manifested that they have been approved by Yahweh. Those shaken by the in-house problems of a congregation are shaking Yeshua's love. Yaakov 4:1. Again, this message, crossing the raging Yarden. Crossing. In the land of Shalom, the footmen are wearying us. How are we going to contend with the horses on the other side of the Yarden, outside the land of Shalom? Yaakov 4:1. Now here it gets heavy. Here it gets very heavy. Yaakov 4:1. From where do wars and fightings among you come? Do we have fights going on in Bnei Yeshua's synagogue?
No.
Yes. Do they have fights and problems in the other Messianic and Nazarene congregations? Yes. Okay. Let's find out where it comes from. Do they not come from your desire? That wars to make war in your members? Why do we have problems in all these congregations? Every congregation that meets has problems. Why is there problems in Aron Kodesh in Fort Lauderdale? Why are there problems in Goffman's congregation? Whenever believers get together, you're going to have problems. Right? Why? There's a war. And the war is that your desire prevails. What desire? The desire to be right. The desire to take action. The desire to straighten out others who have hurt you. The desire to punish others for hurting you. That attitude will lead to war in the camp. That attitude will lead to warring in the camp. You know how many people would still be here in this congregation if they didn't care about who is right and who is wrong? Can you imagine how many seats we'd have filled? If they didn't care, they didn't desire to be right. They desired to be mature and learn, have Yeshua teach them how to ignore an offense. You know why some of you are still here in this congregation now? Because you're mature enough to have ignored offenses that happened in the past. And that's why you're still here. Let's be honest. Jerry, come on now. Cough it up, baby. Cough it up, Jerry. Some of you, the only reason you're still here is you are learning how to ignore offenses. And you know why others aren't here? Because they haven't learned how to do that. Look at verse 2. You desire and have not. You kill and desire to have and cannot obtain. You strive and you fight, yet you have not, because you ask not. You ask and receive not because you ask wickedly, that you may satisfy your lusts. Okay, let me give you an example. Stay with me now. Sometimes we do not have what we pray for. He says, look at verse 3, Yaakov 4:3. When there are problems in the camp, when there are controversies in the camp, when there are divisions in the camp, when there are heresies in the camp, and get used to this. The problems that are here now will be here 5 years from now, but the names will change. So Yahweh's waiting for you to grow up and for you to learn how to handle it. The same problems you have now, should Yeshua tarry, will be in the congregation 5, 10, 20 years, and they'll be in the congregation in Kentucky, in Illinois, in Michigan. You could run, like Joe Louis said about Max Schmeling in 1938. You could run, you Nazi, but you can't hide. Because Joe Louis is going to get you. The brown bomber is going to get you. They could run, but they can't hide. The problems will never go away. Yahweh allows them to come into every congregation to create what? Controversy? To see who is easily shaken. You thought they were strong. You thought they were weak. The one you thought was weak is mature. The one you thought was mature is a weakling. Stuff is starting to be manifest. Stuff is starting to come out. Praise Yahweh for controversies and heresies. Praise Yahweh. Well, look at verse 3. Yaakov 4:3. You ask and receive not, because you ask wickedly, that you may satisfy your lust. In other words, let's go back to verse 1. Stay with me, please. We fight and we war amongst ourselves, notice, in our desire to be right. The members, the most important thing for most members is to be right. If they have to hurt the rabbi, they got to hurt Shaul, they got to hurt Bruno, Zechariah. It doesn't matter who they hurt, they have to be right. They're a member, and they're waging a war to show that they've been mistreated, regardless of who they hurt and what problems they caused. They have a desire to show that they were right. And it leads to warring in the members of the camp. Now, look at verse 3. Then you ask and receive not. So a lot of people who get easily offended, who are immature in the faith, they ask and they pray, but they don't receive because they're asking wickedly. How many know as a believer you can pray in el nombre de Jesus and pray wickedly? Or en nombre de Joshua, Shua, and still pray wickedly. Because you ask amiss. Now what does that mean? Watch this. What does that mean? Here is wicked prayer. Daryl, I'm going to let you into my world right now. You want to know what wicked prayer is? Ready? Father, in Yeshua's name, please change Anna. She is very, very this and very, very this. Please change her. I can't stand it anymore. She's impossible to pray with. She just bugs me. She doesn't walk in love. She's very quick-tempered. She's sarcastic. Just please change her, Father. Do something. I can't take it anymore. That's wicked prayer. You're going to get nothing. You're going to get worse. Pardon me. You will get something. You're going to get worse. You ask, but you ask amiss. Thank you, Zechariah. You ask, but you ask amiss. So in other words, when we are offended, notice, we don't pray to change the offender. That's wicked prayer. We pray to change us. Give us the power to ignore. November 24th, Yahweh, from November 24th, I want the supernatural power that I can never be offended again. I am offense-free. There's not a human being on this planet that could say something, stare at me, comment, make any kind of remark that will offend me in any way. Thank you, Yahweh, for the power that very few have. Now you're praying, not to change Anna, but to change your response. Is it easy? No. It's darn near impossible without the Ruach HaKodesh. Prayer when you are offended that is heard by Abba Yahweh is this: Abba, change me so that nothing in this life can offend me, no matter how severe, no matter how painful. Can I talk? Can we talk? I got that way in my life because everybody was offending me. My mother, my uncle. First thing, I went to my uncle's house for Christmas. That's right. I confess. When I was a boy, I didn't know any better. Wherever my parents took me, I went. First thing, oh, Moshe, how are you? I'm fine. Second thing, oh, you seem to have gained.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't walk into that Manhasset home without my uncle making a comment about my waistline. It's like he was fixated.
Wow.
You know, maybe he was gay with my waistline. I don't know what his problem was. Uncle, you gay with my waistline. Get off now. Second thing, I walked to the house. I'll show you. Getting a little bit. What? I mean, this guy has nothing in his world. But how many have a relative like that? Oh, getting a little ball, getting a little. It's like.
I
have a couple of relatives.
You've got to learn to ignore these things. And the prayer, you don't want to pray so we receive not. We pray to receive. We don't want to pray wickedly. We want to pray righteously. So the way we pray is not to satisfy our desire for revenge to the people who hurt us, but to tap into a supernatural ability to not be offended anymore from November 24th. It can be done, not with my message, but with Yahweh's Ruach. It's not my message, but Yahweh's Ruach can do it. No matter how severe and how painful. If you ask Yahweh and say, Yahweh, please get me to the point in my maturity that nothing a person can do, a human being, can offend me and hurt me. That kind of asking is never refused. Notice, if you ask for Yahweh for bread, will he give you a stone? If you ask him for the Ruach, will he give you a serpent? So brothers and sisters, I have to confess something to you right now. I never ask Yahweh for a soft heart. I don't ask Yahweh for a soft heart. I ask Yahweh to do this. Yahweh, give me a soft heart, but at the same time, give me a tough hide. You can't serve Yahweh without a tough skin. You're up here. They will criticize the way you walk. They will criticize the way you talk. They will criticize your children and your family. I wouldn't wish the ministry on my worst enemy if they weren't called. You better be called. If you go into Yahweh's service, you better be called. Better. You better go sent, not just merely went. So I say, Yahweh, give me a soft heart. Help me to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comforted. Help me to comfort the afflicted, but to afflict the comforted. Soft heart, tough hide. That prayer will be honored. Did you get that? Instead of asking Yahweh to change the offender, ask Yahweh to give you the ability to deal with any offense from any man, anywhere, at any time in the world. Nothing can offend me. Then I am Superman. Nothing can offend me. The problem is we are too sensitive. We have all these tapes playing back what our teacher told us, you'll never amount to anything. Our parents abandoned us, you'll never be any good. Our grandparents were ashamed to introduce us to their friends. We were put down, we were ridiculed. No one ever received us, and then we met Yeshua. And Yeshua said, I love you, I'll clean you, and I'll allow you to eat with me at my table. You're Mephibosheth, 1 Samuel 9. I got you as a lame and a crippled. I'm Mephibosheth, but you're going to eat at the king's table continually. That prayer will be honored. Yahweh, change me. Don't change the offender. Let them keep offending. That's your business. I'm not going to hurt them. I'm not going to hurt back. I'm not going to pay back. Vengeance is mine, says Yahweh. I will repay. I want to use this offense to be changed. My heart to remain soft, but my hide to be tougher. Turn to your neighbor and say, tougher.
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 That prayer will be honored. Stop praying in the lust of your flesh to change the offender. You know what it means? When you're praying to change the offender, you're praying your desire. Now go back to verse 1 and let's see what Yahweh says about our desire. Look, James 4:1. Where do wars and fights come from? They come from your desire to change the offender. So rather than change the offender, you have more problems. That prayer will never be heard. The only prayer that will be heard by Yahweh is not to have our desire come upon the offender, but to make us offend-proof. Offend-proof. Nothing you can say can stop me from my calling. Nothing you can criticize me can stop me from my walk. I am proof. I have been offense-proofed by the Ruach HaKodesh. When you get there, you are ready to be mature in the kingdom of Yahweh. I'm not saying I'm there, but I have to learn how to get there. And if I keep trying to change Anna when she hurts me, or Daryl, or somebody else, then I'm a fool. I'm asking amiss. I'm trying to impose the desire that's warring in my flesh upon them when maybe they're not ready to change. They may not be ready to change, and you still want to change them. So next time someone offends you, Yahaloma, say, great, Yahweh, this is an opportunity for me to change my response to this offense so I can practice for future offenses. If we don't learn from the past, we are condemned to repeat it. That prayer will be honored. Stop praying the lust of your flesh. Pray in the Ruach. The lust of your flesh is, Yahweh, change the offender. The prayer in the Ruach is, Yahweh, don't change the offender, change my response to the offender. Brothers and sisters, I'm giving you the key to deal with offenses. Will you take it? I'm giving you the key to deal with offenses. Will you take this? Will you run with it? One of the worst things we can be in trying to live for Yahweh is overly sensitive. I think I've covered that, right? Now, if we do not pray for Yahweh to change us so that we can deal with offenses and never be affected by offenses, if we do not apply what we've heard today, here's what's going to happen. Wars will continue and get worse in the congregation or in your home. If you don't apply what I'm sharing, you have no choice but to apply what I'm sharing with you. You have no choice. Because the alternative is ongoing war in your family, in your relationships, and in the congregation. You have no choice. You will learn to ignore the offenses, or you will be overcome by the offenses. You have no choice, Darrell. You have no choice. From where do wars and fightings among you come? They come from your desires, our desires, not Yahweh's desire, that wars in our members. We'll close with this. Members, listen, members need to learn how to handle the small offenses, based mostly on perceived wrongs before war breaks out. Blessed are the peacemakers, they'll be called the children of Yahweh. I leave you with this question from Yirmiyahu 12:4 and 5. If the footmen of hurt feelings have eliminated you from Yahweh's service and Yahweh's calling, so that your spirit is wounded, how on earth are you going to contend with the Islamic horses of the apocalypse? If we cannot learn to war against our desire to punish the offender, and we go after our Israelite brother and try to hurt back or to punish the offender, how are we going to stand against Islam? Would you explain that to me? When they come to kill your children and your wives and to blow up nuclear weapons in your city, how are you going to stand against? You'll be busy fighting your wife. You'll be busy fighting your husband. You'll be busy fighting Rabbi Moshe. We got to get him out of the ministry. It's time for new leadership. Whatever your problem is. And all this time you're fighting in the camp, and Islam is marching. They're on the march. Bism Allah. Bism Allah. In the name of Allah. Bism Allah. Bism Allah. In the name of... We're marching in the name of Yahweh. But we're too busy trying to change the offender. Instead of saying, Yahweh, thank you for the controversies and the offenses that have come into our congregation. So we can really see who can take the heat in the kitchen, and we can see who runs for Niagara Falls to find some water because it's too hot in the kitchen. Thank you! Instead of sitting there, listen, can I tell you the truth? I don't mean this to offend you. Take this in love, okay? I honestly do not mean this to offend you. If everybody leaves this congregation, seriously, you know what? I'll still preach the gospel. I'll still do my radio. I'll still serve Yahweh to the day I die. And then I'll get a real job. I'm having a great time. With the criticism, I'm having a great time. I'm serving the King. I set my own hours. I don't have to be at the desk 9 to 5. But if that day ever comes, when I think I'm a leader, and then I look behind me and I see nobody following? What happens when you're a leader and you turn around and you see nobody's following? You think you're a leader, but you're only taking a walk. If you think you're a leader and you turn behind you and you've got nobody following you, you're just taking a walk. And I know a lot of leaders who take a lot of walks. How many are with me? If you can't say oh man, say oh my.
Oh my.
Yo soy líder. ¿Sí? Yo soy líder. Pero no tiene ovres. There's no sheep. Sweetheart, you ain't you just taking a long walk. If the footmen of hurt feelings have eliminated us, or eliminated you from service and calling, so that our spirit is wounded, how will we contend with the Islamic horsemen of the apocalypse and the martyrdom to come? We can't even ignore little petty offenses. What's going to happen when Islam comes and says, here's your choice, messianic quiz of the day. You will either deny Yeshua and confess that he is a pagan myth, and you will confess the Shahida. What is the Shahida? There is no God but Allah and Muhammad his prophet. You will confess the Shahida, or we will blow your brains out. How many of us will then say, you know something? You're right. I'm too young to die. I'm only 18. There is no God but Allah. And Muhammad, his prophet. Yahweh forbid. When we're called on martyrdom, Yahweh forbid. What will we do then? If the footmen have wearied thee, how will you contend with the horses? Because the horses are here. And they will ultimately give you a choice. Muslim Evangelism 101. You will confess the Shahidah, that there is no God but Allah and Muhammad his prophet, or you will die. I want you to meditate on this as we close. If you have run with the footmen and they have wearied you because they've hurt your feelings over petty issues and petty things, how, Yahweh asks, not Rabbi Moshe, Yahweh, how will you contend with the horsemen in Yaakov's trouble? And if in the land of shalom and carpet and pews and microphones and brotherly love, if in the land, the relative peace of the land of shalom, where you worship and where you trust Yeshua, if in the land of shalom your own brothers have wearied you, what makes you think you will manage to cross the raging Yarden? Selah, Yisrael. We love you. Shabbat shalom.
Giving us ways to get favor.
Go ahead.
I forgot. I need favor. Memory pills. Something. My goodness. Yahweh. Favor. What was the last thing I said?
Giving us all those
Cut out worldly music.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Favor. Yahweh gave me favor through you. Okay. Yes. Okay. The last unsaved friend that I had, I dropped him off on Union Turnpike in Queens. Now, I'm not saying this to be proud of him. If you have unsaved friends in your life, they're going to drag you and confuse you. If you've got birds of a feather flock together, if you hang out with people that are not planted, they're not stable, you should have no unsaved friends in your life. Zero! The only time you bring an unsaved person in your life is to share the love of Yeshua with them. Let them get close enough to they experience the love of Yeshua. But not for communion, not for friendship. They'll destroy your heart and your mind. Get rid of them. So you know what I did? This guy was Jewish. He was one of my Jewish friends. His name was Arthur. Okay? So I took Liberated Wailing Wall. This is the last time I had an unsaved friend in my life. I wanted to witness, but I also wanted him to accept Yeshua. So I put on the Liberated, how many know Liberated Wailing Wall? Jews for Jesus, music. And I blasted the song about the Lamb. Ah, the Passover blood, the blood of the Passover. And he's like, he's going. He's got the heebie-jeebies. He's got the beefo jerkies. He developed a severe case of spicy chicken curry right in my car. Right in my car. Spicy chicken curry. Those of you who frequent Indian restaurants, you know what I'm talking about. When that spicy chicken curry gets a hold of you, it's like, who's on first? You know. So I turned up this song.